Is Marlon here yet? He's not here. So Marlon just came out with a new book. It's actually a collection, poetry collection through the Iconoclast initiative, and new book of poetry. These are poems written by kids. And in this program, so it's pretty cool. On the back of the book is a poem by Leon de Silva, who Marlon tells me it was actually a refugee. And this is what, I'm gonna have to read it from here because I don't, from the screen, I don't have my phone on me. But this is what he writes. What is your name? Where do you come from? Why don't you go back? When did you get here? And for what reason? What are your passions? What motivates you? Do you love? Who loves you? Who do you hate? Do you hate? What do you believe in? And then this last one is a question that is really part of what it means to be human. What it means to be who you are and who I am. Where do you belong? And to whom do you belong? That's a great question for all of us, that God has created us to ask that question, and a longing to belong to each other. So next slide, Charles. So we, some of you may know that with Revision we do work at the Clements Unit, which is a maximum security prison in Brazoria County. It's where kids, teenagers who are certified as adults and are serving adult sentences at this prison unit. Built in 1888 on an old plantation, no heat, no air. It's really one of the most hopeless places that kids can go to. So every first Friday, we work with kids down there in the Clements Unit. And so the last time we were there, we were talking about belonging. And around the table, we had them ask the question to each other, all these kids around the table, where in your life did you feel like you felt most included? And there was a kid there around one of the tables that answered the question. He just actually got to the Clements Unit, and he said, well, right here, right now with you. So I thought about that. Wow, what is that like for a kid that age who feels like he is most included inside the walls of a prison unit in one of the most hopeless places on earth, that he had not felt that before, but that because of a sense of connection with people around that table, he felt like he was included for the first time. So what does it mean to belong? So here's I think part of what it means to belong. Charles, next slide. How do we know that we belong? Hit it again. So belonging happens when we meet each other as persons. When I meet you as a person, and you meet me as a person, as a human being, and all of that means, and you meet each other that way. So it means, psychologists say that at least it means that I see you, that I accept you, that I believe in you, and that I will pour my life into you. That's what it means to know that we actually feel like we belong. So when we do that as a community, when we actually see each other, and we pay attention to see one another, not just look past each other, but to see each other, and we believe in each other, not just because of what we're strong in, but actually we believe in each other, and we accept each other, embracing each other in our weaknesses. And then a real sense of belonging begins to happen, and we say, yeah, I'm gonna pour my life into you. I'm gonna contribute to your life and ask you to contribute to mine. When those things begin to happen, we know that, then we have a sense that we actually belong. Next slide, Charles. So we were visiting, one of our folks were visiting with a kid who's locked up in a detention facility, and what he does is he reads his Bible, and he reads this, the graphic novel version of the Bible. And so one of our folks was asking him, well, what did you learn? And he said, what I've learned from reading this is that we're all connected to God, and we're all connected to Jesus, and we're all connected to each other. This is what this kid who's locked up is saying. And then he pauses and he says, what a different world it would be if everyone lived like that. And I thought, you know what, that's true. What a different world it would be if we all began to live like that. So the next slide, Charles, you can hit that. So this is actually, I think, what the scripture, what the Bible actually talks about. That God has created us to belong to each other, to see each other, to accept each other, to believe in each other, to pour ourselves into each other. So this is first is from Isaiah. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name, and you are mine. This is Isaiah saying, the voice of God speaking to all of us, that we belong to God. That God is saying, you are mine. And then Jesus in his prayer in John 17 says, I pray for them, meaning everybody who will come after him, that they may be one as we are one. So the scripture is real clear that we inviting us to know that we belong to God, we belong to each other, and here's the real kicker, that we actually know that we belong to God by belonging to each other. And that the more we have a sense and we are able to live that way, as our friend said, that we belong to each other, then we might just begin to believe that we belong to God too. That your life and my life together in community actually helps us know and realize that we belong to God as well. So that's the thought for the day, for the night. And that's all I got. So somebody want to pray?